right, welcome in Bettor's Last Stand. It's show 81, coming to you from a studio that has a river that's approaching flood stage. Is wheeling braces for some flooding here in the next couple of days here, but we're gonna keep it rolling on Bettor's Last Stand and try to give you some winners. And that's one thing, you can snuggle up next to the fire, your television, and bet on your app and just watch it rain and watch it flood, and hopefully everybody's safe. And it's back to normal here in a few days. People are really in a panic over this thing, and there's really not a whole lot you can do. So best of luck to everybody out there that has property along the water, because it's definitely not in a good spot right now. But we're going to try to persevere here, try to give you some winners, and definitely try to bounce back from last week, which was the worst week I think ever recorded on Bettor's Last Stand, if I'm not mistaken. I'd have to go back and look for sure. And I did not have time today as we were preparing for floods at work, so I did not get to go back and research what I needed to do. I was tied up with things all day long. So anyway, we'll look to rebound off of an awful performance. We were down almost 13 units, 12.90 units last week, not counting the golf. It was awful. I was terrible, and I'm the first to admit that I was way off on a lot of these. Yeah, we had some bad beats, we had some bad luck, and some things that didn't go our way, and maybe some good opinions that didn't turn out. But it doesn't matter. We lost anyway, and we deserve to be better. And for you deserve for us to be better. So we're gonna be better, and let's keep it rolling here. And you're gonna have these days. You're gonna have weeks and time periods where you really just nothing. Every opinion you have is wrong. So gotta try to make the most of the ones when you do have the right side of things. So recapping, obviously college basketball is the talk across the world right now. Everybody's talking about the men's tournament and the women's tournament. The women's tournament to me has been the far better product, no question about that. But people still like the men better, and I don't know. I have a hard time understanding that. I've always been a person who liked women's basketball, so I'm a little bit different. I was a little bit ahead of the curve. Like, this isn't anything new to me. Obviously, the Caitlin Clark phenomenon has taken it to another level, but I've always watched these women's games, and it's good to see them getting some exposure, and there's more betting markets available on the games now, which is absolutely awesome. They're on TV everywhere now. They didn't used to be, so I'm glad for anybody that got on board with women's basketball because of Caitlin Clark or LSU or South Carolina or whatever it was. We had UConn, we had Tennessee, we had runs of Notre Dame, who was really good, Stanford. I mean, there's been a lot of good women's teams over the years, so it's good to see that they're finally getting their due, and we look forward to a really exciting Final Four here as South Carolina gets the job done, barely, though. They didn't make it easy on themselves the other night, but nonetheless, taking down Oregon State. And they've struggled to cover a little bit. And then NC State beats Texas. And then the following day, it's Caitlin Clark in Iowa winning 94-87 over LSU. And then in the late game, this was one that I was on the other side of, Connecticut. Just can't say enough about them. They're not the program they once were, but they're still really good, and they're still very well coached. And they knocked out USC 80-73 there. So we're staring down the barrel of a UConn and Iowa matchup in the Final Four, as well as an NC State South Carolina one. Not any really strong opinions here. It's hard to bet the Caitlin Clark thing's over because you're going to get so many people betting into those markets just to see her get points and assists and all that stuff. Triple-double might be worth a look, but she doesn't rebound a whole lot, so I don't know about that one. I like her assist totals over. I think those ones you can get the most fair value on. She's definitely going to try to get her teammates involved, although I'd be very cautious about overs in this game because UConn is not going to play up and down like LSU did and try to match Iowa, which I really was surprised at Kim Mulkey because she's a really good coach. And she's obviously been under a lot of scrutiny lately from newspapers and various media outlets and things like that. And I don't think it's all very deserving at all. But she should have probably had a little bit better game plan, if you ask me. I thought Haley Van Lith guarding Caitlin Clark was a terrible mistake. That was never going to work. And I think that running with Iowa was a huge mistake on her part. And her team seemed exhausted by the end of the third quarter. And, that's when Iowa kind of pulled away and then took control of the game. And you won't see UConn doing that. UConn is going to walk it up. They're going to take very structured shots on offense. They were not going to shoot early in the shot clock unless they have an absolute layup or wide open shot. and you're going to see them defend a whole different level to what LSU was able to put forth. And it's not because of the players they have, because LSU arguably has the best athlete there is next to South Carolina, but you're going to see Gino Auriemma coming up with some sort of way to either say, you know what, we'll let Caitlin Clark get 50, but no one else is scoring, or he's going to try to do something that Iowa hasn't seen before. It's going to be really hard to stop her because of her range and everything. It's just going to be, you're not going to find a whole lot of people that are going to be able to take her completely out of the game. But I think he'll have a pretty good plan together to try to at least kind of curtail her abilities to where if he can, I'm sure he would say, you know what, if I can hold her to 30 or under, I think we'll win. And I think that's fair, and he may have a shot. But I like under in this game. I really do. I think, like I said, the defense of UConn is going to be at a different level than what you've seen some of these other teams. And UConn played great defense against USC, and they played really good defense against Duke, and they played really good defense against Syracuse. And, you know, they're battle-tested. They have a great coach. They got Paige Beckers. I like this game under. 162.5 to me. It's too much. I think if this gets into a track meet where it goes over, and it's going to be Iowa definitely winning the game. Right now, Iowa laying 2.5 in the game. So if you like Iowa and you really, truly do, and it's not just you like Caitlin Clark and you want her to win, if you actually have a strong opinion on Iowa being able to win this game, then maybe over is your play. Now, Iowa can still win the game in a low-scoring game. I'm not sure UConn can win it in a high-scoring game. So I think it's really important for UConn to keep it. So if you like UConn, I think you play the under. If you like Iowa, you can probably go either way, but you know most likely you're going to go to the over because you're going to want Clark to go off and score and all that kind of stuff. So player points right now for her, you got 33.5. 3-pointers over under 5.5 right now. And right now her combos, like her double-double, she's minus 160. Triple-double, she's plus about 450, 475 at a couple of spots. Everything on here is for her. 7.5 rebounds over or under there. I'd probably go under in that one. I don't think there'll be a ton of shots in the game, so I don't think the rebounds will be quite as lucrative. 10.5 on the assists. That one's a little bit tricky. Normally I'd be playing her assists over, but in this case I probably would lean to the under here. I think she'll probably get 8 or 9. 10.5 getting to 11 is going to be tricky because I don't think the possessions will be nearly what they were in the LSU game, as you're going to see UConn really slow this game down to have any chance of winning it. So take a look at that, and remember that's part of the whole handicap here is when you're doing player props, you have to handicap the game too. What kind of a game do you think this is going to be, and so forth. Some of the alternative things right now, you can bet Iowa to win the game by 14, 15, 10 to 13, 7 to 9. There's all those bands in there. They're all plus money. So if you think the game's going to be tough, going to go down to free throws, then maybe you say 3 to 6, 7 to 9 range. And if you think Iowa's going to blow them out, you can play it by 21 plus, 12 to 1 on that one. And if you're a UConn backer, I think UConn to win the game isn't completely ridiculous. I don't think they will, but again, I was wrong. I thought LSU might beat Iowa. I thought they were going to be a little bit different matchups. I thought that they would match one of the Johnson or one of the really athletic guards that LSU has. I thought would be on her to kind of just eliminate her from being able to put the ball on the floor at all and do anything as far as getting her teammates involved. But they did not do that, and they paid the price. So it's going to be an interesting game. I lean the under in that one. That's my play for that game, UConn and Iowa under the 162.5. And the other game, South Carolina and NC State. NC State's pretty good team. I've watched them play a few times. They're not going to be able to match South Carolina physically, but they can shoot a little bit, and they defend all right, and they rebound okay. They're a pretty decent all around team. So I think they could possibly cover this number. 11.5 is pretty high for a Final Four game, but South Carolina has proven that they've not really been clicking on all cylinders, and they're going to be in a spot right now where everybody expects them to win this game, and then they're either going to get UConn, the best program in the history of women's basketball, or they're going to get Caitlin Clark, the best player in the history of women's basketball, at least at the collegiate level, at least the most dynamic. If you want to say she's not the best, I'm sure you could argue that Maya Moore or Diana Taurasi was equally as good. They're just a different kind of game. But as far as excitement level to the game goes, Caitlin Clark, the number one jaw, UConn, the number one program. So it could be a look-ahead spot. I know it's hard to imagine you look ahead in the Final Four, but South Carolina's going to know that they're going to probably get to this final game. So I think NC State could be a little bit dangerous in that regard. Maybe a first half bet on NC State too to keep it close. And then, as much as I like the under in the second game, the Iowa-UConn game, I like the over in this one. 139.5. I think it's a touch low. I think that NC State. I don't think NC State's going to be intimidated in the game as far as whether they're going to be able to attack and transition and things like that. I think they will. It'll basically come down to if they can make open shots, and that's basically what any basketball game is going to come down to. So I'll give NC State a fighting shot to hang in this game. I thought maybe the first half was worth it, so plus 6.5 for the first half. This may drift up a tad too. So South Carolina money obviously coming in, Iowa money coming in. That's already up to 2.5 now. It started at 1.5. It's going to probably end up around 2.5 or 3 there. So we'll see what happens, but 2 good games here on Friday night, so enjoy those, and then the finals on Sunday. And I think Iowa, if Iowa is able to continue to play the way that they have the last 2 games, they played awful against WVU, but they played very, very well the last 2 times. They played great against Colorado, and they played a really, really good second half against LSU. So it might be the year. Iowa might get it done. It's hard to go against Caitlin Clark. I hope they win. I was happy they beat LSU. I'm a Kim Mulkey fan, but and I had LSU in the game, but I don't mind that. This story's pretty cool, so I got no issues with it. I respect the heck out of them all, and I really am just pulling for anybody other than South Carolina, who I think behaves like a bunch of idiots. So I'll be hopeful that UConn or Iowa wins that game. I'm not sure. They're both going to be dogs. South Carolina's probably going to be given, I'd say, 4 or 5 at least to Iowa, and then probably 6 or 7 to UConn. So if UConn is against South Carolina, I would definitely take UConn plus the points and probably play the game under. And then I'll probably be on the over in the matchup against Iowa. I think that one will probably be somewhere, man, it might be in the high 160s there. So Iowa goes, and I think South Carolina will not be afraid to go, and I think maybe that will benefit Iowa if they can get the game going. So if Iowa gets by UConn, I like their chances to possibly at least cover in the game against South Carolina, perhaps win, and I like the over there. If UConn wins it, I'll be taking the points with UConn and playing the game under. But check out BLS_PRP for our finalized picks on these games. I may change something may be altered. We could lose somebody on Friday or whatever. There's always different variables, so you got to be able to account for. So check those out on Twitter or X or at the Pine Room Studios. You can find out all the plays that we put up each week and each day. And hopefully they're going to be a hell of a lot better than last week. NIT, got that semifinal set up. I don't really have any opinion on that. Indiana State's been good. They probably should have been in the tournament for sure, and they'll go against Seton Hall. That would be last night when you're listening to the show. So expect a good game there, but had nothing on that one. Purdue and UConn now both giving near double digits. UConn giving double digits at 12 against Alabama, and Purdue now -9. I saw some 9.5s out there. Thought maybe it was going to get to 10 this morning, but it did not. 146 the total in that one, Purdue and NC State. 160 the total in Alabama and UConn. I think Alabama-UConn over is a good one there. UConn can play all different ways. Alabama's going to have to get the tempo going in the game because they're not going to be afraid really about scoring. That's not really their issue. It's just, can they stop anybody, or can they be athletic enough where they can slow down Klingman and those guys inside for UConn. I don't know if they can, but if Alabama shoots it anywhere near the way they shot it last time, they might have a shot at hanging around, but it's highly doubtful. I just don't think you shoot that way back-to-back nights or back-to-back games. It seems like it's not going to work. It's a different shooting background too, which is going to be a problem. You're in a really big stadium here, State Farm Stadium out there in Tempe. I believe it's Glendale actually, but so giant football stadiums, weird backdrops. It usually tends to not be a shooter's background type place, but so I probably lean, if I was going to do anything in this game, I'm not laying 12 with UConn. If I had to, I probably would, but I'm not going to. I'm going to play the first half probably under, and I'm going to play the second half over in that game. That's where I'm leaning right now, but I'll put my finalized picks up on the BLS_PRP site. And then the other game, NC State and Purdue, I just think it's going to be tough for Burns to be able to do anything against Edey. He's got such a giant reach advantage on him. And Burns, a lot of those times he's going against these guys, he might be a little quicker, But Edie's arm length is going to cut down the angles on this, and he's not going to be able to get the separation that he's been able to get. And he's only a 6'9", and Lurch is 7'4". So, to me, much as I'd like to see NC State hang in the game, I just don't know if it's going to happen. Probably lean Purdue here, although the Painter factor hasn't come in yet, so maybe if they're in a tight game, they choke it away. But Edie seems like he's on a mission. He seemed pissed off. He was cussing on the air, which... Again, I'm not offended by it, but like, hey, come on, man. You know you shouldn't be doing that. It's not a great thing. But anyway, I don't know. These games don't really excite me whatsoever. Much more excited about the women's Final Four than these two men's games. Most likely it'll be UConn and Purdue clashing in the finals. I probably lean Purdue game under, but it's hard to do that because this is a game that NC State would be smart if they wanted to keep the game lower scoring, but 146, that's a tricky number. It might be a tad too low. I lean to the under, but I don't love it. So I'm going to rethink that one over the next few days, see where the number moves, and see how that one turns out. But nothing really strong there on either regard. Be happy when this tournament's over. I thought the play's been awful. And they have too many teams. People want to add more teams. You don't need any more teams. We know who the best teams are. UConn and Purdue. Did anybody not think that one of those two would be there, or both of them? Seems pretty good. Like you can make a pretty good educated guess that those might have been the two best teams all season, and they're probably going to play each other. So no need to add any more teams. There's too many bad teams in the tournament, too many blowouts, and it wasn't good. I didn't think it was a good tournament for line makers. I don't know who starts out by having these lines out there, but the numbers that I've had versus the numbers that have been on these games has been way off. It doesn't mean you're going to cover either way or make a difference. A lot of times the lines didn't even come into play, but they definitely weren't perfect. So not a great year for the NCAA tournament, but you're not always going to have it. So I expect maybe it'll pick back up next year. And, maybe I'm just irritated because I lost so many games, but I don't think it's just I didn't think the gameplay was very good. Anyway, recapping what we did, again, down about 13 units. I was 5-8 in the AFL, 6-10 in college basketball, 1-0 in the NHL, 6-1 in Major League Baseball. So it was off to a good start in that one. 3 of our 7 golfers made the cut, which is terrible. NASCAR, we had a near miss with Logano. I had Larson. Sam had Logano. What a disaster. We'll talk with Sam here later in the show about that. Just incredibly disappointed in the race the other night if you didn't see it. Caution comes out with less than 2 laps left before Martin Truex, who was easily going to win the race, was about to take the white flag. Ironically, it's Bubba Wallace spinning Kyle Larson. Bubba Wallace, who's owned by Denny Hamlin. Denny Hamlin wins the race off pit road. Denny Hamlin jumps the start at the race. It should have been black flagged. He did not get either. Well, he did win the race off pit road, but he didn't get black flag like he should have. And Truex lost spots. He lost to spots to Larson and Logano. Logano couldn't run him down. Hamlin easily ran away in overtime and won. And Denny Hamlin, I don't have any issue with him, but he's gotten a lot of breaks that other guys have not gotten in NASCAR. A few years ago, he went down below the yellow line at Talladega to pass and won a race that he should not have won. And they said he was forced down there, which was just not true. They've been flagging guys the whole race for it, for worse situations than what Denny was in. And then this one, too. Home track. His guy spins a guy out on purpose to bring out the caution. Something just didn't add up there. I don't like to see that, and I don't want to think of NASCAR as being corrupt. But I thought they really screwed that one up, and it's really disappointing. And obviously, I lost out on it, so I'm a little bit bitter with that one too. But I didn't think it was right. Truex, much the best car, and he really got a rough job there. And Logano, he had his chances too, but just it wasn't going to work. Hamlin just had everything work for him in the last 2 laps of the race, of course, and overtime. And it sure looks like he got some help from his buddy Bubba and NASCAR as a whole. We'll talk again about that with Sam coming up. Hockey, we're down to the last couple of days here. Penguins are still alive. They're on the table with the respirator, with the paddles on their chest, but they're still alive. They got a shot. They're only 5 out now, and they have some games that can control their own destinies. Back-to-back wins against the Rangers and Devils. Hadn't beat the Devils since 2022. Really struggle against the Rangers too, but a good performance. And Djokovic has proven he is now the number one goalie in Pittsburgh. Jari is in the doghouse, and rightfully so. You cannot count on him. And this just shows you did not need to bring him back and not sign him to a long-term contract, which the Penguins made a huge mistake, and they should have traded him at the trade deadline, but too late for that. Hopefully they'll move him in the offseason. I think he's done as far as Sullivan's concerned. So I give Sullivan a lot of credit. He's taken a lot of criticism this year. From me and many other people. It's not been a good year for him. He's not gotten the team to respond, but they brought a few younger guys up. They've got a little bit younger, a little bit quicker in the lineup, and their goaltending has been a little more stable with Djokovic in there instead of Jari. So I give Sullivan the credit for that one. He did make the right move there. They got a big power play goal last night. I don't know what the hell's going on or who this team is, but if they keep it up, they might have a shot of sneaking in. You got Detroit, you got the Caps, you got the Islanders, you got the Flyers, all of them just clinging to life right now. None of them playing consistent hockey, and it's going to come down to it. Tampa Bay looks like they're solidified in the 7th spot, and then it's just a showdown between those other teams. And it's not unrealistic that the Flyers, who are in 3rd in the Metro right now, the Penguins or the Caps or the Islanders could catch them, and then you could get a 2nd spot there. So either one of those is up for grabs for the Penguins. I think the Flyers are really a mess right now. Tortorella is so mad at his team, and they're pretty mad at him because he's such an asshole. So we'll see how it shakes out. Nashville, who I was really, really high on, I thought they were going to be a very dangerous first-round series for somebody in the West. I still do, but they've lost 3 in a row now. So this has been incredible, the peaks and valleys. The Florida Panthers right now are in a terrible slump, the worst slump they've been in all year. Will they get out of it in time? I don't know. Sasha Barkov got hurt for a couple of games, and ever since he's been back in the lineup, they have not been able to win. They've just had everything go against them. I mean, they're losing games. They're really bad teams. So keep an eye on Florida. I don't know what's up with that. Tampa playing pretty decent hockey right now. Carolina, so-so. The Rangers, so-so. They got the Devils tonight. I mean, I don't know. The Eastern Conference to me looks very, very vulnerable. There's so many teams. I thought Florida was going to be the runaway team in that, and they're not anymore. So probably a 3-horse race between Carolina, Florida, and the Rangers. If Florida gets back on track, nobody else probably could do a whole lot of damage. Perhaps Tampa, only because they got a great goalie and they still got some really good veterans, in a great power play. So they could potentially steal a series from somebody. Boston, to me, is zero threat. They're not good enough down the middle. Toronto, absolutely zero threat. They will never, ever win more than a series. They're just a bunch of losers, and that's what they'll continue to be until they revamp that whole thing. So in the West, like I said, Nashville, I think, is a dangerous team. Dallas playing really well right now. Winnipeg, up and down. Colorado, up and down. And Edmonton, I still don't trust them. The Kings, the Golden Knights, a team we talked about, if they continue to get a couple more guys back heading into the playoffs here in 2 weeks, they might be extremely dangerous. They're playing pretty good. They beat Vancouver last night off of a long road trip, which is tough to do. Coming back off of like 5-game road trip, like a 12 days, 5 games. Coming back home and winning after that is really tricky to do. Vancouver might lack a little toughness and some veteran grit. I think that they're going to really miss in the playoffs, and they're going to need to get better goaltending to be able to win. I think they're very talented. Love the coach, but they got a lot of work to do. Going to these period data stats here as we wind it down. Start looking a little bit more towards the unders here, especially the teams that the games really matter. You're going to see teams playing a little more buttoned up. You got teams like the Penguins trying to, they're playing for their playoff lives here. So it hasn't always translated. But the other night against the Rangers and a couple other games, you start to see the game playing a little tighter. So maybe small lean towards unders at this stage of the season, especially if you got 2 teams going at it who really, really need the points. You could see some soccer-like gentleman's draws almost, 2-2s and 1-1s, get it to OT, and then somebody get the extra point. But keep an eye out for those. Goal in the first 10, yes, 54-20 for Ottawa. Tampa, 49-25. Edmonton, 47-26. Last 10, Edmonton and Buffalo, 8-2. Goal in the first 10 minutes, yes. Second and third period numbers. Second period overs. Ottawa, 60-14. Think about that. That is absolutely incredible. Toronto, 59-25. Dallas, 56-19. Second period over 1.5. Last 10, Ottawa, Columbus, Pittsburgh, 9-1. Second period overs. Pretty hot. New Jersey, New York, Rangers, Washington, all 8-2 to the over in the second period. Third period overs, Tampa 55-19, Columbus 54-21, Minnesota 53-21. In the last 10, Edmonton and the New York Rangers 10-0 third period overs. Winnipeg 9-1 third period overs. Think about that. Winnipeg was a team that didn't allow more than 3 goals for so long, and now they've kind of turned around, scoring a little bit more, giving up a little bit more. Last 10 also third period overs. Detroit, Vegas, Philadelphia, Washington, Toronto, all 8-2. So you have 7 teams there better than 80%. No, actually 8 teams are better than 80% overs in the third period. When those teams match up, got to hit the over button on those ones. Same with the second period ones. You had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 teams playing at least 80% over the last 10 games, second period overs. Great stuff there. Thanks to Ian Duncan, Chris Otto. They post those things on Twitter or X. You can find those whenever you want to check out your period stats. They got them all on there, and the trends, how many of them hit in a row, all that kind of good stuff. So looking forward to hockey playoffs. It should be fun. I think you're going to see some more upsets. You'll see teams that are 7 or 8 seed that are going to be very live to win these series. So we'll take a strong peek there and see if we can find some good series price winners there. I think we will be able to do that. The Nailers down to just a few games left. They're in Indianapolis tonight, and then they're home for a pair against Fort Wayne and Indy over the weekend. Really need the points. They get the captain back, Justin Adamo, coming back down from Wilkes-Barre. Dylan Hamelick also appears to be back on his way back to Wheeling. So hopefully the Nailers can get 3 or 4 points this weekend. They're really going to need it because they are in an absolute dogfight for the last spot in the Central Division. So we'll keep an eye on that. Get on out to the arena. Got Frosty Friday. Got wrestling night on Friday night. So if you're looking for something to do tonight and your house isn't underwater, should go down to West Banco Arena here tonight, Friday, and then they're back home Sunday at 4:10 for that face-off against Indy. So good stuff there. Hopefully the Nailers qualify for the playoffs, and then we can talk a little bit about their series prices and some things that we like in those ones. So I'm looking forward to that, and hopefully they can pull it out. But they're going to need a lot of support and a little bit of good fortune here. But it looks like the reinforcements are on the way, and perhaps they get a big lift heading into the weekend. We're going to take a quick break here. Bettor's Last Stand. This is show number 81. Phil Kessel's show here. 81 from the Pine Room Studios on a soggy midweek day here in Wheeling as we prepare for more floodwaters to rise up across the Wheeling Island area and the low-lying parts of the region. We'll take a quick break. We'll be back to talk a little golf, a little baseball, a little Aussie rules, and mix in a little UFL as well. It's the 81st edition of Bettor's Last Stand. We'll be back in a moment.
This episode is sponsored by our good friends at IC Cab. Whether you're in the Ohio Valley, Pittsburgh, Cleveland, Columbus, Morgantown, or Charleston, you've seen the cars around. IC Cab provides a simple transportation service for all your transportation needs, be it a ride to the Pittsburgh airport, because we all know it's cheaper than parking, corporate transportation, courier services, or just a ride home from the local bar. IC Cab is your way to roll. To book your next ride, call 304-232-1313 or schedule a future ride at iccab.com/contact. Then all you got to do is fill out some info and boom, you got a ride coming your way. Oh, all right, that's me. Give them a call. Tell them the Pine Room sent you.
All right, welcome back in. Bettor's Last Stand, show number 81 from the Pine Room Studios, downtown Wheeling. Don't forget, check out all our stuff at the Pine Room Studios on YouTube and the various other podcast outlets, Amazon, Spotify, every which way. Apple Podcasts, we're everywhere. And if you enjoy all the content, drop us a note, contact at thepineroom.podcast.com, message us on social media, X at the Pine Room Studios, Instagram, whatever you want to do. Keep up with us. Check out stuff on the Beer Mile. Want to get on that and sign up May the 4th down at Waterfront Hall, Waterfront Fest, that is. So it should be a fun afternoon. Thanks to our friends here at IC Cab for sponsoring the show. As always, 304-232-1313, the number to call there, or the IC Cab app. IC Cab always working. And our friends at Zambito Flooring America and Four Seasons Golf, Ricky Zambito. Appreciate everything he's done, as well as our friends at Generations and Figueretti's. Great support from all those folks. Jill's Gentlemen's Club, Gumby's, Duggar's Market. We've had a lot of people help us along the way here, so we're very thankful and continue to share the gratitude and spread the good word about all these wonderful local businesses that we have here in Wheeling. Hopefully all of them will stay pretty clear from the flood zone. I know Generations is usually gets down in the flood zone, so hopefully everything is well there and everybody will be back operating well by the weekend here as we hopefully don't get too much more rain. Moving along here, the second portion of Bettor's Last Stand, show 81. Again, we were awful last week, but we're going to look to pick it up. Texas Valero Open, or it's actually the Valero Texas Open, I believe. Valera gas station, the sponsor of this one. So we're going to go to the Oaks course at San Antonio. Now, the Masters is next week. So you got to be a little bit leery here. How many guys are going to be really gunning for this? There'll be guys, but not the top guys. So Rory McIlroy to me is a major fade. He's always a fade for me. But 8-1, outrageous. He's not going to win this tournament. He's not going to want to win. He's just going to want to sharpen up, try for the Masters, which he won't win next week. He'll be at 10-1 or less. And he will get played and played and played, and I don't understand it because he's not going to win. Scheffler will be a huge favorite there, but you get Rahm, you get Koepka, some of the big dogs from Liv in there, which is exciting, so we look forward to that one. Masters next week. Although, I will say the Masters does bore me a little bit. Same course, same stuff. It doesn't have the intrigue that it once did in my mind. Anyway, we're going to go focusing on this week at the Valero Texas Open, TPC San Antonio. Top guys right now, I think Hideki Matsuyama, who's a Masters champion and has been really, really coming back into form here. He's around 20-1. I think that's a good price for him. I think he could win this. The way he closes out rounds and things like that, I think he could have a good weekend performance from Hideki. So he would be my top play, followed by Colin Morikawa at 25-1. He wouldn't have thought about getting him at 25-1 a couple of years ago. He's got a putt. If he putts, he's got a shot. So I'll go with Morikawa. Needs to keep sharpening the game, and I think he actually is a guy who will try to win this. He needs to win to get some good mojo going for himself because he's just not played up to his standards. So Morikawa, Matsuyama, and Alex Noren, who we had last week, is one of our few golf plays that we had last week that was really good. So Alex Noren around 30-1, starting to get his game back to what it was a few years ago, handful of years ago. I remember he lost in a playoff to Jason Day, and I thought, man, this dude's really good. He's going to win some tournaments. Hasn't turned out quite the way that I thought it would, but he's starting to trend back towards the top of his game. So look for Alex Noren. So Noren, Matsuyama, Morikawa, my top guys. And then some of the guys under the radar here. Davis Thompson, 75-1. I like his game. I like this course for him. I think he sets up to have a pretty good round. And then Akshay Bhatia, and it's spelled Akshay, like Akshay, and then Bhatia, B-H, H silent, A-T-I-A. This guy's impressed me. He's been on the leaderboard a few times this year, played some tournaments over in the European Tour or the DP World Tour, if you want to call it, whatever you want to refer to it as. So I've always kind of remembered him. I didn't know a whole lot about his game. He's been impressive to me so far this year. I think he's trending in the right direction. I like him. 55-1. I think it's a good price on him. Andrew Novak around 95, 96, maybe even up to 100-1. I heard Jeff Seeley give him out earlier today, so I like Novak as well. And if Jeff Seeley's on him, it's got to be a decent play. Eric Barnes, who's Jeff Seeley's best buddy. If you haven't checked out Cutmaker Podcast, you want more golf stuff. He's a really, really sharp golf guy. So check him out. But Eric Barnes, 240-1, could definitely be a guy that makes the cut. Top 20 type performance for him. And then Christian Bezuidenhout, 44-1 here. Like his game. He kind of is a feast or famine type player, so you got to watch out. Hopefully he gets off to a good start because he can really, really roll in the birdies, and he can also rack up the bogeys too. So hopefully Bezuidenhout will have a good week, and we'll be going with him as one of our underdog under the radar plays. So again, those are Noren, Matsuyama, Morikawa, my top plays. Secondary plays, Davis Thompson, Akshay Bhatia, Andrew Novak, Eric Barnes, and Christian Bezuidenhout. That is at the Valero Texas Open. Live guys are in Miami as they're back getting ready for the Masters as well. Down at the Trump National, down at Doral in Miami, Florida, right outside of Miami. Like DeChambeau here, but his price is a little too low, about 9-10-1. Don't love that. Taylor Gooch, 15-1. Like him here. He was on the team that won this last year. Anirban Lahiri was also on that team. I think he's going to be a hot contender here. He's around 55-1, so I like him as definitely a top 10. And then Paul Casey, Mr. Solid across the board, like Paul's game, he's 25-1. So those are the guys we'll go with there. So Gooch, Lahiri, and Casey down at the Trump National at Doral on the Live Tour. Baseball opening week. Got some baseball on right now. Observations to me. We'll talk about a few things with Sam as well, as I want to get his thoughts. I'm sure he's pumped about the Pirates, who are 5-0 right now, but you got to remember, they beat the Marlins and they beat the Nationals. Nationals picked to finish last in the division, which they're not going to because either the Marlins or the Mets will be last in that division. So the Nationals, to me, are going to be a gritty team. I like them over their win total, and I still stick by that. But Pirates right now are just a little bit better club than them. That doesn't mean that the Nationals won't win today or whatever else in this series. But the Marlins are a mess. The Marlins are going to have to fire their manager here like ASAP. They have not won yet again. They lost this afternoon already again. I think they're 0-6. They're either 0-6 or 0-7, and they haven't even been in contention in a lot of these games. I mean, they're getting just blitzed from the start. They can't pitch, they can't hit, they can't field. So, to me, that's a recipe for a firing here, and you're going to see a shakeup. So, I would not be too excited if I'm a Pirates. The Marlins are absolutely atrocious, and the Nationals picked to win 60 games. So, they've beaten nobody. So, we'll see. We'll see what happens when the Orioles come to town this weekend and they got to play against a real team. We'll see what happens. But Pirates are better. I still pick them to win about 80 games this year. I think they'll hang in. They'll contend in a division that's not going to be very good. So I give them a shot of hanging in contention. So all the Bucco fans out there that think I'm a hater or whatever, no, I just don't believe in nutting, and I don't think that they'll ever try to actually win. But this year I think that it won't matter. Milwaukee is not nearly that good. The Reds are going to be the team that I'm interested in because they're trying to win. They got a good young team. The Cardinals have not looked good at all so far, but Cardinals are the Cardinals. They were not good last year. I think they'll be better. But, man, the Yadier Molina thing is really, really something that's going to be tough to overcome for them. Their pitching has been just terrible. And their corner infield is getting really old. So, Cardinals may not be able to bounce back like I expected. And then you got the Cubs, who are just so-so. The Cubs will be right around 500. They'll be very similar to the Pirates. They owned the Pirates last year. That was a team that the Pirates really struggled with. So, I think the Cubs and, the Pirates are going to be right around the same area most of the season. The National League West, to me, is the best division in baseball. I think the Padres have corrected some of their issues. The Giants, I think, are still pretty good. The Dodgers obviously have an incredible lineup. Pitching still needs to show a little bit. And then you got the Diamondbacks, who made it to the World Series last year. Really good. And I tell you, I think that's an incredibly good division. The Rockies are going to be bad bottom feeders there. And I don't expect much out of them. Atlanta, obviously, along with Philadelphia, the top teams in the NL East. The Mets are going to not be a factor at all. I don't think the Marlins are going to be a factor at all. And I do think the Nationals will compete at a very, very hard and high level as far as, trying to win games and really giving their best effort, not just shutting it down like a lot of these other bad teams. But they're not going to be very good. Their pitching's just not good enough to contend. So I look for Braves and Phillies. They're easily run away in that one. Marlins to finish last. Mets to be second to last. Maybe the Nationals right around the same exact spot as them. And then you go over to the American League. You got the AL West, which probably is going to be a three-horse race, I would say. Mariners, Astros, and Texas Rangers, all really good teams. I expect all of them to be in contention there. In the AL East, Tampa Bay is not as good as they have been. Boston is just so-so. Toronto, I can never trust in a serious situation. The Yankees right now look like they got a great lineup, but again, I don't trust their pitching. Last night they got beat 7-0, so I wouldn't get too excited about the Yankees' hot start either. I think they'll just be high 80s probably for the wins there, right on the cusp of a playoff spot. But Baltimore's the best team in that division without question. And then if Toronto would ever get consistent, then they probably are the second best team. But I don't know. You may get two or three teams out of at least two and probably three out of the AL East to at least be in contention for playoff spots. And then you got the Central Division in the American League, and that's about as bad as it gets. The Royals have actually played very well against Baltimore, so I've been a little bit impressed with them. They've pitched a lot better than I expected. They still can't hit very well, but they've pitched pretty well. So keep an eye on the Royals. Cleveland, same situation, decent pitching. Hitting is going to be a problem. Tigers have not shown the ability to hit the ball or pitch very well. And it's strange because their win total was at 80, and we talked about that before as to how weird that was. So that seems a little bit off to me. Minnesota, same situation with Minnesota. They're okay, but they're not going to beat any of the better teams. They're just not in a series. They're just not going to be able to beat Houston or even any Yankees or Baltimore or any of these teams that are just constructed in such a better manner than the Twins. The Twins just don't have a lot of guys that you would say are proven playoff performing type players on either on their pitching staff or in their lineup. So I'm not big on the Twins at all. And then you got the White Sox. Boy, they could be really, really bad, along with the A's, who are almost ready to have a revolt, where they're sending guys down to the minors who just to tank, who are outspoken against what's going on there. So keep an eye on the A's. They may be a constant fade. You can only play for pride for so long, and if you don't have any good players, it might be too hard to even win games. Trying to stick it to the ownership group, but the White Sox and the A's are going to be absolute bottom feeders out there in the American League, whereas in the National League, I think the Rockies and the Marlins and the Mets, all really, really bad teams. So we'll see how it goes. I think there's obviously you got 155 more games left for most of these teams, so plenty can change in that time, and we'll be keeping our eye on some value and some things that come up here. I think that the one area that I've had some success in early on here, and last week we were 6-1 in our Major League Baseball bets. So keep an eye on these, but the team total's over. The Dodgers continuously getting put at 4.5, I think is a little bit off. I think there's only been one game this year where they didn't hit that. The Orioles have had 2. I think they've been 4-2. Pirates actually, I believe, are 5-0 to the over 4.5 runs. So you got some teams like that. Atlanta, I think they've only had one where they haven't scored 4.5. So look for those. If you're looking for a situation where you got a giant money line, for instance, the Braves are playing the White Sox. They're going to be minus $2-something every single time, maybe even more than that. If Strider pitches, it's going to be high 2s. Look for the runs. Look for a situation where you think, Braves will kill this team, but I don't want to lay 280. I'll go Braves over 4.5. You can get it for minus 110. You can't beat that. I think you got to look within the market within the market, to find these values here in baseball. When you're doing this in hockey as well, when you're playing the team total and goals, because you can save yourself some cash there, because you don't want to lay. Because if you lay $3 with the Braves and they get beat like they did the other day, then you don't get anything, and it takes you 3 winners to be able to make up for that. So you don't want to have to do that. You don't want to chase that. You don't want to lay money like that. I'll never recommend anybody betting baseball like that. I just think it's crazy to do. If you like the Dodgers, hey, people tell me the Dodgers are going to win 110 games this year. Okay, so you want to bet them at minus 240, minus 230, and on a more even day, minus 190. You want to do that every single day? I don't. Because if I lose a couple, they lose a couple in a row, then again, I got to win 4 or 5 to be able to get back to where I was. So I'll be going with the run totals for the teams like the Dodgers, the Braves. I mean, it makes a lot of sense. The Orioles, especially when you start getting some of the splits and you start to see the matchups. If they're going against a lefty, if they're going in this park, or if they're wherever, you can really save yourself a lot of anguish. Because chances are, Braves win the game, they're going to score 5 runs. That's the way I look at it. And, even if they don't, you can actually win the bet and they could lose. So if they have an off night pitching where they have to have a spot starter, or the bullpen's, taxed, and they get beat 7-6, you still win. So to me, that makes a lot more sense. Your risk is far lower, and your chances of paying off, you have multiple ways you can pay that off. They can slaughter them. They can get beaten a slugfest. I mean, you got a lot of options there. So keep an eye out for those. If you have any questions about them, message me, or shoot us an email, or give us a call on the Watchdog hotline when we're on the radio each week. So I'd love to talk baseball with anybody. All right, let's shift it over now. We're going to talk a little. Let me hit on really quickly UFL football last week. I didn't know a whole lot about this. I wasn't giving out any official plays, but I thought play the unders. That's usually how those things trend. Well, we went 4-0 to the under, although our boy Skip Holtz tried to screw us there. He tried to kick a field goal as time expired, and the game he was winning by 2 touchdowns, and it hit the upright. Fortunately for me, it stayed under, but I didn't understand that at all. But made practicing the kicker, which, come on, that's what you got practice for. But anyway, UFL's unders, interesting first week. I don't know enough yet to be making assessments on these teams. Watched a little bit of it. It wasn't too bad, but I would lean towards the unders again here until further notice, until we just have a little bit more data. All right, and then it's Aussie Rules football. We weren't great there last week. 5-8. We had really some miserably bad beats here, which I want to go into. Brisbane and Collingwood over 167.5. Brisbane had 12 behinds in the game, so that's the equivalent of basically. I'm trying to think of what it would be equivalent to in another sport. You really don't have basically, I guess you were on the 1 yard line in football, or we'll say goal to go inside the 10-yard line in football, first down, and you had to settle for, instead of getting a touchdown, you were inside that area 12 times and you got 12 field goals. It would never be like that, but you know what I'm saying. That's the equivalent. Instead of scoring touchdowns, you're scoring field goals. That's not enough to get the game over. So, of course, we missed by 4 points. Finishes 92-72. Just, that was an absolute right side there. Brisbane doesn't miss like that. Charlie Cameron was missing these chip shots, and that's frustrating. But anyway, bad beat there. UCLA women was a bad beat as well. 3.5 for LSU. They were leading in the second half. They were tied after 3 quarters, and they get outscored 30-21 in the fourth quarter and lose by 9. So that one hurt. NBA injury reports. This is getting a lot of discussion. Joel Embiid ruled out. Then he was questionable. Then he played, all within a 2-hour period. Shenanigans going on here. If you're betting the NBA, you're absolutely nuts right now, or you really like to cheat death, because you never know who's going to play in these games. And these guys, they're not giving you the rundown of what's actually happening. So that is not cool. Abuse of sports betting, athletes via sports betting. So you lose a bet, you just degrade these athletes on social media, or sometimes you're getting their phone numbers and texting them. It's absolutely horrible. If you know somebody who's doing that, tell me about it, because I want to out them. Nobody should be acting like this. If you're losing a bet and you're acting like this, you shouldn't be betting. You should be in jail. It's ridiculous to harass these people like that, and you ruin it for everybody. It's awful. Massachusetts Gaming is looking into how books are limiting bettors. They're limiting certain bettors who are winning, and so on and so forth. It's a problem. I run into it too. I hate doing that. We don't like to do that ever. I don't do it, but sometimes it's above my area of being able to make the choice. But you got people trying to get $1,000 bet down, and they're not letting them, re-offering them $100. It's ridiculous. We're freaking sports books. You should act like one. You have the backing to be able to pay these bets. You need to do it, and you need to be fair, and you need to have better numbers. If you're getting beat consistently as a bookmaker, your numbers aren't good. So just remember that before you start cutting people off after 30 days of action. It's way too short of a sample to prove if anybody's sharp enough to be able to beat you. Pay attention, know what's going on, and don't be chintzy. Come on. And then sources say illegal bookmaker Matt Boyer, who was booking for Ohtani's translator, was telling everybody that it was Ohtani's action. Now, whether he was just doing that to draw in interest or it was actually Ohtani's action, we don't know. We shall see, but I don't know. It's quite interesting. Let me go through these AFL games here for you really quickly before we get Sammy on here. Adelaide and Melbourne, that's a Wednesday night game, won't matter for you. We got Thursday games. Brisbane, the Lions, they're 0-3, which is shocking. I'll be backing them. And then over 180.5 there. Port Adelaide against Essendon. Be Port Adelaide minus 22.5. The total 178.5. That's an early Thursday one as well. Or actually, that's early Friday morning, so you should be able to get that one in possibly if you. Actually, you'll probably miss it. But Port and over in that one. Here's the games that you can actually play if you want to, if you're listening to this. Friday night, 10:30. Will be the first bounce here, the Sydney Swans and the West Coast Eagles. We've been fading West Coast. The lines aren't big enough for them. Play them on the adjusted totals or the adjusted alternate spreads, 60.5, 80.5, whatever you need to do. Play it 60 and above, them to win by 60, win them by 80. Sydney Swans minus 54.5 here. I'll be playing Sydney minus 54.5. I'll be playing them minus 60, minus 70, and minus 80 over the 171.5 or 178.5 on that one. West Coast has given up a ton, and they score enough that probably be able to put it over. Carlton and Fremantle, battle of 3-0 teams. Carlton minus 3.5. Fremantle also 3-0. The 165.5 is the total on this one. Will be going under in that one. And then Western and Geelong. These are early Saturday morning games. Geelong 3-0 now, playing really well, although Patrick Dangerfield out again this week, so keep an eye on that. Cats will be minus 2.5 against the Western Bulldogs. They were 2-1. Not a bad team. Lean Geelong here, but man, this is a really tough game. I didn't have a strong play either side there. I'm going to look and see who the lineups are in the injury report. So check out BLS_PRP for the final ones on that one. And then Saturday, this one also actually this is an evening game. You got GWS 3-0, top of the league right now, minus 17.5 against Gold Coast. I like this game. I like GWS minus the 17.5, and then I like the game under the 170.5. Gold Coast really struggles to score. Also, a Saturday game, St. Kilda 1-2, haven't been good. Minus 20.5 against Richmond, who's absolutely beat to hell with injuries. They lost 2 more guys this week. Two more of their forwards, so this could really hurt them offensively. So I'm going to go under the 165.5 in that one and play St. Kilda minus the 20.5. And then finally, Collingwood, the champions last year. They've been awful. They're 1-3. They're laying 23.5 against Hawthorn. This is an early on Sunday morning matchup. I'll be going with Collingwood minus the points against Hawthorn, who's 0-3 and really bad. And 169.5 is the total, and I'm going to go under in that one, 169.5. So those are our AFL plays. They'll be all posted on BLS_PRP. We're going to take a break here on episode 181 of Bettor's Last Stand and be back with Sammy talking some racing and some baseball and everything else. It's the Bettor's Last Stand 81st edition. We'll be right back.
Reminder, Bettor's Last Stand is for informational and entertainment purposes only. All wagering activity should only be conducted by those 21 years of age or older and within the confines of federal, state, and local law. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem, contact 1-800-GAMBLER. That's 1-800-426-2537. You're watching Bettor's Last Stand.
All right, welcome back in Bettor's Last Stand, show number 81, coming to you, Pine Room Studios. Sam the Man joins me now after a busy Easter weekend. We had a nice day, family-wise. It was fun. Saw the Buccos win, saw some interesting basketball, and then finished it up with the race. It didn't turn out the way I'd hoped, Sam, but that's the way it's gone for us lately. We've had a little bit of bad luck with our picks in recent weeks. We've had guys right there knocking on the door, but can't seem to finish it off for us. Observations from the Richmond race, which was kind of a mess from the start with the moisture in the track, and they're trying the new tires, and it was just weird from the start. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, it was weird from the start, and it's like I texted you, the Easter race is cursed. I don't know if it needs to get pushed to a Saturday. I don't know if the Bristol dirt just had so much bad juju that it just has carried over, but like they wasted so many laps, like trying to drive pit road. You know, they wasted like 7 laps of the first stage. I just thought it was a joke. It turned into a total joke.
Yeah, it did. And you see, I mean, it was nice in a way that they were able to run that race, because I mean, years ago they probably wouldn't even tried, but it was like they had no preparation. Like it was like it surprised them or something. It's
right.
Bizarre.
It was bizarre. You said they had no plan, but they had the tires ready just in case.
Yeah. So I don't know. Just you gotta wonder. And then the end of the race didn't work well for me at all. I was really pissed off about the whole thing. Bubba spinning Larson late, and then Denny winning the race off pit road and kind of getting a jump on the start. And man, Truex was pissed, and Larson was like blown away that Bubba waited till that lap to wreck him. And it was, I don't know. It just wasn't a good ending to the day, and it sure seemed, if conspiracy theorists are out there, it sure seemed a little strange that Denny Hamlin's employee wrecks a guy that ends up benefiting him at his home track. That sounds very odd.
Yeah, that is very odd, and NASCAR has set the precedent now that you can jump the start.
Right.
You know, they didn't penalize them for it, so nobody can get penalized going forward here if they jump the start.
Which they probably will anyway, because as if you remember a few years ago, Denny Hamlin got away with some going below the lines at Talladega and won a race. Mm-hmm. He was the only one. Every other guy got in trouble for that, had to do a drive-through penalty or whatever it was. And he went down there, not forced down like they say. You can only go if you're forced down. Well, they ended up saying, oh, yeah, Denny was forced down, which we obviously know he wasn't. So I don't know. I don't dislike Denny Hamlin, but I'm telling you right now, it's almost like NASCAR's saying they're purposely trying to get like the next Dale Earnhardt type villain that they think is going to help the sport. And it seems like it might be him. I thought it was going to be Ross Chastain, but it seems like it might be Denny now.
I know, and the thing that makes me skeptical, and I hate doing stuff like this, it's like, all right, he's the only guy that's trying to push the sport with his podcast. He's trying to get everybody to get eyeballs on it.
Right.
Why would you not want to make him the controversial winner so then you can go listen to his podcast so he can say something? So
brilliant marketing.
Right. I don't know if that's what it is, but he really is one of the only guys that is out front putting himself out there. Like Chase Elliott, if he was doing what Denny was doing, Elliott's NASCAR's, he's already a very, very, very popular driver, but it'd be unquestionable that like he just doesn't put himself out there. No. This guy does, so I don't know. Maybe they're running with it.
You're right, though. Denny Hamlin's done a lot for the sport. He's growing the sport, obviously getting involved with the Jordan team. I mean, it's great. I mean, I got no complaints about any of that. My complaint isn't with Denny Hamlin. My complaint is with NASCAR for letting him skirt the rules a little bit when other guys are not being able to get away with it. That's the issue I got, and it's not really with him, like I say. But, yeah, he's done a lot for the sport. He continues to do a lot for the sport to get it out there, expose it, make people aware of it, which is great. So I commend him for that. Overall observations of the race, other than the finish, I mean, Truex had a really strong car. I thought it was nice to see Logano bounce back. He ran well.
I know, and it's like Wallace too. It's like Wallace is always up there, but I can never put him up there to finish. He's always doing dumb shit like he just did.
Yeah, I know. It's
always.
It just seems like you make a good call with him, and then he's dicking around at the end and screwing up his own finishing position to help his owner win.
He loses his mind.
Yeah, Larson, another solid run. Chase Elliott shows a little bit of signs of life.
He's getting there. The
Hendrick car's obviously strong again. Yeah, but I mean, to me, it was a little bit uneventful. I mean, I thought I didn't see a whole lot of action in the race until the very end. It was a lot of just issues for certain teams, but as far as the actual racing, it wasn't one of the better ones this year, I didn't think. What did you think?
No, I agree. It definitely was one of those races that, like, if you were trying to get into NASCAR and that's the one you put on, right. I apologize.
Yeah, I know. You'd be like, oh, boy, I don't know what the big fuss is about this.
Right,
it's not
this
all
shit
that
sucks.
great. But
going 90 miles an hour.
But that's okay. We move on now to Martinsville, another short track, stay in Virginia, the paper clip they call it. And we got some strong racers here. I was looking through these odds. There's some guys on here with some really low prices, which I'm going to be passing on. Denny Hamlin, almost sub 4-1 right now, which is ridiculous. Insane. Winning back-to-back is not easy in this sport, especially now with the colony of drivers being so good. But you got other guys in there. Larson around 7.5-1. Blaney around 7-1. Truex around 7-1. Truex has had some success here. Chris Bell 7-1-ish. A lot of low numbers, which, Blaney's been awesome here. He won in October here, and then I think he was in the top 5 in the spring race too, or top 6 or 7. And then Kyle Larson was the other winner. He won this race back in the spring, which was this version of the race, the Cookout 400. Man, I had a hard time finding a guy where I wanted to get some value, but also wanted a guy that I really thought could win the race. And I actually came up with Joey Logano as around 10-11-1 as my top choice, with Chase Elliott being choice B at around 14-1. Where did you fall here on the Cookout 400 at Martinsville?
I had 2 choices for my winners. Logano was number 1.
Okay.
And my second one was Ross Chastain.
Okay.
And I think I'm going with Ross Chastain.
I have Chastain as my third choice, so good call on that. I like the way that he runs here. He's had a couple top 5s, couple top 10s. I think his car, if you look at the track data, his ratings have been pretty strong. So, yeah, no, I'm on Ross as well. I thought he was definitely a live car here. And then how about Chase Briscoe? His price obviously not where it usually is for Chase Briscoe, but around 20-1. He's had back-to-back top 5s here. Can he keep it up? Obviously, this track really suits him.
Yeah, it does. I mean, I think he is a sleeper. I even have Stenhouse.
Yep.
And Gilliland as sleepers at this track.
And speaking of Gilliland, I mean, he's been okay. Like he's been qualifying well. He's been running like good laps and showing that his car actually can compete with these guys. I mean, that's great to see.
It is great to see, and it's honestly kind of shocking because, like, man, he's just been there. He's like reminds me of Harrison Burton. It's like those 2 guys are there. They show up. Thank you for your participation. Right. But now it really seems like Gilliland's like they've taken a little step to at least be up there.
No, and it's great because the more guys you get into this, the better it is, and it makes, from a betting standpoint, it makes the betting odds better. So when you have a Todd Gilliland up there who's starting to get respected, then right. when you're lowering his number, then you're increasing the number of another driver. So you're finding the value out there definitely, and I think it's really really good to see because for a while, there was just so many guys out there that you would have it just be just basically dead cars, like they just like run around, and we don't have nearly as many of those. We'd like to see him get a little more consistent across all the tracks, but we don't have nearly the toss-out cars all the time. And then you got some of these young guys that are starting to show some signs. I mean, obviously Gibbs knocking on the door. He's got a pretty low number this week, around 11-12-1. I think he'll probably run pretty well. He's going to win here any week now. We know that. And then Josh Berry continues to impress me. Solid run for him again at Richmond. Noah Gragson, another solid run.
Yeah. I know. There's a lot of – Matt, it's like the talent pool this year has seemed to – I don't know if it's just like blossoming or it's showing its true colors, but NASCAR's got a lot more talent than maybe I just put my brain to it than I remember. But I'm a fan of it. You're right. A lot of names like Barry could run well this week. He ran well last week too.
Yeah, and again, you're seeing obviously he's getting good equipment. The Kevin Harvick ride, and he's doing what he can with it. And I mean the RFK guys were solid. They were both top 10 last week. So a lot of teams out here that are taking the next step to where they can contend each week. Alex Bowman not as solid as he had been, but the Hendrick team is just going to be really hard to beat. What are your thoughts on William Byron in this race? He's kind of a larger price for him right now, around 10, 11 to 1.
Yeah, when I was looking at the numbers, nothing really stood out about him, which is probably going to be a reason he'll probably win the damn race. I mean, honestly, he's just like so consistent and he's so damn good.
He is.
I really wouldn't be shocked if he won it.
I wouldn't either. Like, this track doesn't seem like it was a track that, and just in making observations, like, I feel like he's not quite as good a short track racer as he is at the other spots, the intermediates and even the super speedways. But I don't think he's bad either. So, yeah, you can never really discount him. How about Kyle Busch, who's just been a topic we bring up every week about how he just underperformed. And again, I bet you if Rowdy was sitting here in the studio with me, he would tell you he's been underperforming. Do you see anything turning, or is it just that team, as we talk about each week, week in, week out, that team of Richard Childress just probably isn't that good?
Yeah, I unfortunately have to live with Kyle Busch being my pick because I had a weird feeling, Matt. I had a weird feeling he's talented. He's done it in the past. I think it's over.
Yeah.
I mean, he was 20th last week, right?
Yeah, he was not even a contend. Like, he was no contention. Austin Dillon's just basically out of contention every race, unless it's a super speedway. But yeah, I mean, I don't know what it is here right now, but if I'm Richard Childress, we're having a little meeting here with not just the drivers, but the whole team, because something's not working for them.
Yeah, and you know what? Joe Gibbs looks like a genius for not re-signing this guy.
Absolutely.
I mean,
yeah.
Hey, get my grandson in here. I know what this team needs.
Get his grandson, and then Chris Bell comes in as the team transitions to get younger. I mean, it's a brilliant move. And then the only thing, and then you got the drama. Like, the Gibbs team has it all. They got the two veterans like fighting with each other after the race. Truex like slamming into Hamlin. Then you got the two young guys out there. Gibbs is going to win a race. Bell's already won a race this year. So yeah, lots of good things to look for the JGR team and the Hendrick team as they continue to prove that they're on top of things. It was good to see Logano get back into the mix, though, with the Penske team. That's good. We need some Fords to contend here a little bit.
Jeez, I mean, where are the RFKs? Where
Yeah.
I think they're coming, but man, a Ford victory would be very nice for that manufacturer.
Yeah. I think it's coming. I think it's definitely coming. I'm hopeful that maybe this week it'll be Logano getting into victory lane, but we shall see. And the RFK guys, they haven't been bad, but they haven't been quite to where they were the end of last year. So, but I do think they're right in a spot where they can just make some small improvements and they can jump up into the mix. Any other long shots or anybody else to keep an eye on this week?
The only other name really the sleepers I had were Wallace, Briscoe, Ricky, Barry, and Gilliland.
Right.
Other than that, everybody we talked about were in my contenders, so nobody really.
Yeah, I expect it to be a good race. Usually Martinsville is. It's usually hard on the brakes. We'll see whose brakes burn up. Now, here's a guy we didn't really say much about because his price is a little bit low, but I think Ryan Blaney will be very good here. He usually is.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, like you said, his number, I'm looking at a plus 700 right here. It's just too low.
Too many other guys out there that can win the race. But I still like Blaney's game. He's still, solid, and I think he'll be, if he could just get into the playoffs, I think he's consistent enough that he'll be having a chance to possibly repeat as champion. So we shall see as we move over to open wheel stuff here. And again, IndyCar off again for a couple more weeks as they continue the hiatus after one race. But but we got the Japanese Grand Prix as the F1 boys are back in action. Max Verstappen not coming in off of a win, which is very rare, but he did win this race last year. looking at this from last year, there was a lot of crashes in this race, and I didn't really realize, but I went back and looked at some of the videos, and I started to recall some of the accidents we had. But Alex Albon, Logan Sargent, Lance Stroll, Sergio Perez, Valtteri Bottas all crashed last year here at the Suzuka track. Max led 51 laps. I mean, right now he's buying us about $455 to get back in the winner's circle or on the podium. Do you see anybody having a shot here to knock him off for the second straight time?
I mean, I want to just, be like, the McLarens. But if they have nothing mechanically go wrong, he's going to win. I mean, won by 19 seconds last year and then 27 the year before. So
yeah, and the McLarens didn't run well, though. Last year, Lando and Oscar 2-3. So that's a good sign if we're looking for double McLarens in the top 6 maybe. Ferraris weren't quite as sharp here, neither were the Mercedes. The Alpines both had top 10s here last year with Ocon and Gasly. And
I wrote a Yuki top 10.
Oh, yeah.
Yuki's going to drive well.
Okay.
Yuki's going to drive well.
All right. I like that.
His teammate's terrible.
Anything else that you have a hunch on?
Yeah, I wrote Yuki top 10, Albon top 10, and I'm going back to the American team, the Haas. One of those cars is going to be in the top 10, and I think it's going to be Magnussen. I don't think it's going to be Hulkenberg. But I think one of those two cars. They're honestly, they have two identical drivers, Hulkenberg and Magnussen.
Yeah,
they just look different.
They do. They literally trade off each week. Like one guy will qualify well, the other one will be shit, and then vice versa. And then one of them will always have some kind of issue during the race. Usually early on, they'll lose a front wing or something. Will go awry.
Always.
But yeah, it's that. I wish there was a way that we could come into these and just be like, you know what, this week we're going to take a shot with this guy. Like, we can't, there's no way of picking anybody but Red Bull to win these races. Unless there's a mechanical failure, as you said.
I know, but it's like the fact that it's almost an impossibility to be like, hey, I think the McLarens might, like Lando or Oscar might win this week. It's impossible. It will not happen.
How about this one, though? Is there any shot that you could get another double McLaren podium, which would be rare? You get the second and third, but it would still cash the same and it'd be a plus price.
I do think it's possible because Max is so consistent that everybody else seems to just – anything could happen to anybody else.
Yeah, you're right. You're right about that.
I think Max is so consistent. If it's not mechanical, he's probably won. Everybody else, I mean, it's a shit show.
I do like the markets that a lot of the books now have is winner without Verstappen, which I think is actually a pretty good market to get involved with. And I think the McLarens, definitely both McLaren drivers would be in the mix. And then obviously if you're gonna think that Red Bull is just gonna return to dominance and you can go with Sergio, but you could also do the double podium Red Bull and then bet Sergio, so you could kind of almost parlay that into being the way that you finish. He finishes second and beats everybody else and also gets the double podium. But yeah, I think those markets aren't bad. What do you think of Ferrari's chances or Mercedes? Do you think that Mercedes could possibly outperform Ferrari here? I'm not sure they can.
I think maybe George could.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on with Lewis and that whole Mercedes team. I think they're in a bit of a, oh shit, Lewis is leaving. We're not doing too great. What do we do?
Yeah.
Man, I just, like we said, it's almost becoming no fun.
Yeah, it is. It's almost as bad as the NFL. No, but I agree. The Mercedes guys are basically in purgatory when it comes to Lewis Hamilton. I don't know. You're just not going to see a concerted effort to see him win when he's leaving the team. I just don't see the commitment there, and maybe from him or the team. So,
hey, and to answer your question about the Ferraris, Matt, it's so hard because you get last week or the week before, Sainz comes off appendicitis and he wins the race. He really could have his tire fall off in the first lap.
He could, because that's how he
Ferrari's
goes.
So good for an engine blowing up or something. It's like, I'd love to say that this is going to continue, but they could really DNF.
Well, that's how Sainz is. Like, he's either into the tire barrier on lap 2 he's winning the race. Like, it's always the same thing with that guy. And I don't think he's a bad driver, but yeah, it's just the product of the team that he's on, and that's Ferrari in a nutshell too. Can be the best car on the track, and then they can obviously crash before they even get the race started. So, all right, let's get some thoughts on Major League Baseball. Obviously, the Buccos off to a hot start, but you have to be losing a little bit of confidence seeing how fucking bad the Marlins are as they lost again today. They are awful.
Yeah, they were terrible. I didn't think the Marlins were that good anyway.
Right.
The thing that's bothering me now is you see all of these articles. Best start since 1983,
Right.
5-0, this and this and this. I've said to a couple people, they need to lose a couple games. They
Yeah.
need to lose a couple games, get these people off the bandwagon that don't understand what's going on, how hard this is, and then it's just. I mean, it is so hard. Like I said, we were 20-8 last year, and everything was grand. We left Boston, and it was a shit show since then. So anything could happen.
Yeah, you're right about that. Washington today, and then the Orioles this weekend. So that gets a little tougher as they head home for the opener. How about any other teams that have stuck out to you for the good or the bad? Obviously, the Marlins are sticking out for the bad.
Detroit.
Ooh, yeah, yeah.
Detroit 4-0.
Yeah, I was wondering how they were going to continue to do this, but it's like I watched their game the other day against I'm trying to think who they played, but it was like, my God, this is the most boring win I've ever seen. Like, how are they doing this? And they had an 80 game win total, so I was wondering how they were going to do it, but man, I don't know if they got enough. We'll see. I don't know. It's
their division's brutal.
It is really bad.
Brutal.
Cleveland actually up 8-0 right now on the Mariners, which is shocking to me.
8-0.
Yeah, 8-0. Yankees 2-2 with the Diamondbacks right now. What are your thoughts on them? They finally lost the other night. I think they're just okay.
Who's that? The D-backs?
The Yankees. D-backs, I think are okay. But
I hate the Yankees. I hate the Yankees so much. I keep seeing. First thing I saw right before this was Juan Soto eyes $500 million contract. Give it to him. Go ahead.
Right. So that way they don't acquire any more pitching if they keep doing that. So yeah. Keep giving him money because that's going to help you in the playoffs. Let's see. How about the A's? What about their situation? They're an absolute disaster right now.
Man, I mean, they need to just. I mean, they had 3,000 people on opening day and they had a walk-off win.
Yeah, no. They said another game they had 200. Somebody counted in the stadium.
Jesus.
Yeah, and it sounds like they're like the players are almost in revolt stage right now. And they were talking about moving them to Sacramento for the rest of the year, which again, Major League Baseball kind of let this get away from them. They probably needed to have a better plan in order of how this was going to proceed this year because it's going to be an ugly situation for the fans and for people just in the city of Oakland in general.
Right, but they just can't keep playing there.
No,
they can't keep. They can't have that owner, and they can't keep playing there. Those are the two things that have to happen. What happens from there, I don't know.
Yeah,
but it's embarrassing.
To Vegas they go. They tore down the Tropicana today, the legendary casino.
To build that stadium.
To build the stadium that the A's might not even go to. Yeah, they got to get it. They got to do like the Donald Sterling and take the team from the guy. Right
seriously.
It's
embarrassing. It's so embarrassing.
Yep, but that's the good thing is we still got like 160 more games or 155 games left for all these teams. So we'll play more baseball. All right, let me get your thoughts on this one before I let you go. Penguins clinging to life right now. Back-to-back wins against the Rangers and Devils. That's unthinkable a few weeks ago.
It's absolutely unthinkable. And I was watching that game too, and I couldn't believe what I was watching. I mean, I really couldn't. Nedeljkovic is our starting goalie.
He is.
He's got to be the starting goalie next year. Jari's got to go. But it's just like every time I turn it on, Matt, Crosby's just getting the point.
Yeah.
Getting the point.
It's
just keeping him in it.
He really is. And I will say this. We've given Sullivan enough flack and other shows way worse than us. Just saying it's time for him to go and whatever. And I don't all disagree with that. But I will give him total credit. He has now put Nedeljkovic as the top guy, and he's playing. He played him on a back-to-back in a game they had to win. It just showed you he has zero confidence in Jari, and that to me tells Dubas, get this fucking guy out of here in the offseason. They should have traded him at the deadline. And this guy, whether he's going to be our starter going forward or he's going to platoon with somebody, just get Jari the hell out of here. So I give Sullivan major credit for that because that, to me, seems like it's inspired the team. It's like the team believes more in Nedeljkovic than Jari, and it's translated. Christ, they scored a power play goal last night.
I know.
A big one, too. I'm like, what the hell is
Huge.
going on here? I don't even know this team. This is not the same team. And I will say, Sam, that bringing up some of these younger guys towards the end, I think, has helped them a lot. They've got a little bit of a spark in the lineup, it seems like.
You're 100% right. And it's just so funny how the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Pittsburgh Penguins have had a very similar thing happen. No one feels comfortable with this starting quarterback or the starting goalie. They put the backup in, and everybody's like, dude, this is the guy.
Yeah.
We want to play for this guy.
Right.
And it's so funny how the environment and everything changes once they keep putting the guy in that they want.
And it took almost the whole year, and now the gun is to your head right now. You can't lose, and now you got a game here. If you're able to beat Washington tomorrow night,
I know, we're back in it.
You're really back in it, because right now none of these other teams are separating themselves at all. I mean, they're all just clinging. Philadelphia is a damn mess. Tortorella's pissed off. They're ready to quit for him. The Islanders are a disaster. Detroit got it back a little bit, but I mean, you can't count on any of these. The Devils will be done tonight when they get pounded by the Rangers. That'll be the end of them. So, Penguins right now all of a sudden look like one of the more stable teams.
It's incredible, Matt. 2 weeks ago, we couldn't find the playoffs. Now we're in the playoffs.
Yeah, which I don't think is ultimately a great thing, but it's hard to, not. When it's the team you love, it's hard to not find a little bit of excitement when they, start to get to this time of the year and they have a chance. So we'll see. But Sam, thanks as always for your wonderful contributions to the show. Enjoy the rest of your week. Stay dry out there. Hopefully you guys are getting flooding. Dude, get the creek getting high and the streams around your area starting to rise up a little bit.
Yeah, the creek was a little high this morning. There was actually a couple people that take a certain road to get to work. There was some big landslides in good old Upper St. Clair, so I'm sure the yuppies are real happy about
get
that.
Get this shit out of my way. I need to get somewhere.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
All right. Well, stay safe out there and enjoy the race and all the sports this weekend. And we will actually here real quick before I let you go. Final four predictions, men and women. I forgot about that. We should get that for sure. I mean,
honestly,
UConn win it for the men, or what do you think?
Matt, I just can't see him not winning it. Their coach is such a psycho that I think that like when he says something to these guys, like when they went on that 30-0 run, it's like that does not happen.
No, I don't think they can get beat either. I like to think Alabama may hang in and maybe Purdue hangs with them a little bit, but I just don't see them losing unless the other team just shoots ridiculously.
What I realistically want, Matt, is I want a UConn versus DJ Burns matchup.
I like it.
That's all I want. Just give me something good. Give me some glamour. And then DJ Burns has been awesome.
And then we got to ask you this, since every American in the world seemed to have watched it. Did you watch the Caitlin Clark performance the other night against LSU?
I saw a little bit of it.
Yeah.
Did you watch it?
Yeah, I had it on. Yeah. I mean, it was impressive, and she's.
You think they can win it?
Yeah, I do. I think they can. UConn's going to be tough though. Gino Auriemma, you never want to go against him in a big game. He'll have a strategy ready for, I think, so it should be a good game, but we'll see. As long as South Carolina women don't win, I'll be happy.
I was going to say, you don't want Dawn to win one?
No, enough of Dawn. So, all right, Sam, we'll see you next week. Thanks for everything. Stay safe out there, and we'll be talking this weekend.
Yeah, man. Go Bucks.
All right. That's Sam the Man from Upper St. Clair giving us his wonderful contributions as always. We were talking about the Oakland A's there. The Tropicana Hotel in Las Vegas, if you haven't seen it, got tore down or is getting torn down. Closed its doors just this week in order to make way for the baseball stadium, which may or may not house the Oakland A's at some point, or the Vegas A's. So that was, Tropicana is one of the last mob-controlled properties out in Sin City. So sad to see it go. Once controlled by Frank Costello, and it's crazy how that's all turned around. He was, Lucky Luciano, Frank Costello. They ran that thing for a long time, and then the Genovese family took it over. So it's kind of sad. You see some history going, but hey, the A's are coming to town, so it's all worth it. Crazy stuff. All right, that's going to do it for us here on Bettor's Last Stand, show number 81 from the Pine Room Studios. Stay safe out there. Hopefully the flooding starts to dissipate by the weekend, and we can have a nice, safe, and action-packed weekend full of Nailers hockey and basketball, men's and women's baseball, hockey, NHL hockey, all that good stuff. Check us out on the radio, on the Watchdog, every Monday, Tuesday, and Friday. Give us a call, shoot us an email, shoot us a text. Get involved with the show. We'd love to hear from you. As always, we appreciate all the support of our sponsors and our listeners. That'll do it for us here, BLS. Show number 81 for the Pine Room Studios. We will be back here next week with another action-packed show. Hopefully we can do a little bit better in the win column. Follow us, BLS_PRP, for all of this week's picks. Until then, we will see you next week in the Pine Room.